So anyway, welcome to this chilly Wednesday lunchtime. Thank you for spending it with us. I'm David Diarza. I'm the president of the board of the Seattle Revit User Group. And like I mentioned, this is the last SeaRUG of the year, which is kind of wild since I took over from Rob at the beginning of this year, and it's sort of flown by, which is it's pretty wild. But we're very thankful that you've joined us this year, and we're also very excited about what we've got cooking for 2015, which we're already knee-deep in planning. Oh, hi, Rob. How you doing? All right, so I'll get out of here pretty quick and get you guys listening to the real stuff that you came to see. Want to quickly say thank you to PPI Group today for bringing a great presentation. We're gonna see yet another topic related to construction, which is kind of a trend. And believe me, we've had conversations about why these presentations keep going the way of construction topics. And I know that construction does not represent the majority of our attendees, but I think that the group is getting more and more varied. I think it really reflects where Autodesk is in terms of where they're putting their efforts in their software offerings, and not necessarily that should drive our content. So I'll get into that here in a later slide. For next year, we've got some ideas about how to engage you a little bit more in driving the topics of the meetings. But nonetheless, I think this will be a really cool presentation. I've actually seen a demo of what we're going to see here today a few weeks ago at the AGC BIM Forum, and it's really, really cool. Then, of course, I'm a builder, but I think it is really, really cool, even if you're an architect or an engineer. Stick around when we're done. We've got a couple of prize drawings. I've got the usual Amazon gift cards with names to pull out of the hat, and PPI has brought some nice swag and what looks like a pretty nice little gift basket over there. So stick around and we'll pull your name. By the way, to be in that basket with your name, you got to sign up through Meetup. So if you're a +1 here today, coming with somebody else, you can go on Meetup and sign up. You know, we don't give your email address to anybody out there. You know, we keep it to ourselves, so it's not an annoying type of online sign up that you do, and that gets your name into the hat for our prize drawings, which we do at every event. So, real quick, like I said, last of the year, so I really wanted to have everybody give a round of applause and recognition to all the sponsors that have made 2014 happen, and we're very, very grateful for your involvement. You know, we are one of the largest Revit communities in the country. I think that we are one of the most active and most vibrant, and we certainly have the best venue for our meetings of any out there. Most people are stuck in somebody's conference room, you know. So this is actually pretty special that we are able to, year after year, continue our relationship with the public library. You know, and all this happens because the public library, you know, are great sponsors, and, you know, our board members who put their, you know, volunteer their time to make sure that this community continues to be vibrant and the, you know, the content continues to be relevant. And quite frankly, we really enjoy moving our community forward and being part of what's, I think, one of the best communities, not just for Revit, but for BIM in the entire country. We're very lucky that we live in a place where our industry has evolved to really embrace BIM and Revit in collaboration, and, you know, it's not that way all over the country. You'd be surprised. So so once again, I said this last month, just in case that I couldn't be here today, but I really wanted to say my appreciation to everybody on the board and for helping put this together. And I think it's been a fun year, and we've got more to come next year. So thank you very much. Really quick, just some upcoming events, and then I'll get out of here. So, of course, AU, if you haven't signed up already, well, you're probably not going to get some very good course offerings. But, you know, as everybody knows, this happens in December, and it's a pretty good event. A lot of us go down there. I'm skipping it this year myself, but I know that we've got some good representation down there from the SeaRUG board. But hopefully, if you go, you know, maybe next year you want to share some of your what you learned down there with us. And really quick, just wanted to follow up on a presentation we had here a couple of months ago by Imaginit on laser scanning. And I just wanted to mention that there's a part 2 of that that's going to happen at Imaginit's office. If you were part of that, we saw some demonstration of how to capture 3D laser scanning data and take it into Revit and make use of it. And you know, at this event, you're going to kind of see the part 2 and the rest of the life cycle of that point cloud. So there's the information on you know, December 11th. If you, it's a lunchtime meeting, much the same time as this. So if you're interested, make sure to reach out to Imaginit. And do they have to RSVP somewhere, Robin? Is that on your website or?
Yeah, actually, I sent it to you. I don't know if it goes but we'll get it out on the website.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, Robin had sent me a Word document with the information, and there was a little bit too much to put on a slide. But what I'll do is I'll copy all that information over to the meetup on the comments for today's meeting. So there'll be a link there if anybody wants to sign up. All right. So last year we didn't do this, but I think we wish we had, and this year we're not going to slack on it. We are going to be putting together this year the SeaRUG survey, and that's going to go out maybe a little bit later this week, perhaps next week. I don't want it to go any farther than end of next week. So one of the biggest points about this survey, I mean, we have the usual, you know, who are you, what is your discipline, what is your level of involvement with Revit, but one of the things we really want to do is give you a list of topics that the board has thought are very relevant and might be very interesting to our membership. And we'd like you to rank them. We're going to provide all that information to our sponsors. And we're actually going to make a suggestion that, you know, the meetings that they come here with, that they present, be driven largely by the top desires of the audience. And you know, I mentioned earlier, a lot of the meetings seem to be going towards, it kind of seem to be driven by the software and where the software is going. And that's valuable to a point, but I know that you have, you know, there are things that you do in your day-to-day life and your work that, you know, you want to get some value out of coming and seeing maybe some case studies or specific features or specific things that we could be addressing. So, you know, please look out in your email for that survey and get it in as quickly as you can, and that'll really help us drive 2015. For 2015, I'm actually hoping that we can, having that list, actually publish early in the year, not just the dates of the meetings, but also the content, and have that available to everybody early on in the year, and you can plan accordingly. And if you have to, not that I ever want you to miss a meeting, but if you have to, you can at least kind of know ahead of time which ones might be more interesting to you or not. So look out for that. So that's all I have this morning, and I'm going to turn it over to Wendy Finch of PPI, who's going to introduce a little bit about PPI and what they do, and also introduce the feature presentation, which is what you're all here for. So thank you very much, and Wendy, it's all yours.
So thank you for having us. We're very excited to be this month's sponsor, and actually very honored to be a part of your group. It's always fun for me. I work out of our Portland office, so it's fun for me to come up here and spend some time with you guys. I will echo what David said. This is an amazing group. You have one of the best venues. You have an awesome and engaging membership. So we're very excited to be a part of it. A couple of announcements about PPI, a couple of things we got going on. We're very excited about this presentation today. So this is our first of many with Autodesk coming out with the point layout software. It just made really good sense for PPI to become really involved with this, with our unique business model between our TopCon equipment side and being an Autodesk reseller. We are a perfect match for this program. So we're real excited to be able to share it with you guys. We're also doing another presentation very similar to this tomorrow. So if you see something you like and you want to see it again, please let us know. We'd be happy to have you join us. Or if you'd like to pass it on to a colleague or somebody else that maybe couldn't be here, we're hosting a lunchtime event tomorrow to do this, a similar, a little bit more expanded presentation. So the other thing that we're pretty excited about is the amount of demand and growth that we're experiencing. So with that, I just wanted to kind of throw out, if anybody knows of anyone that's looking for opportunities, we have some at PPI in our technical department. So if you'd like to pass that on, that would be great, and they can contact me for additional information. So without delaying the presentation any further, I'd like to introduce Jay Ayala from Autodesk and our very own Curtis Huggins from PPI, and they're going to show you how point layout works. Jay.
Thank you, Wendy. Seattle Revit User Group. So this is the last meeting that you guys will be having, huh? So I love presenting here. You guys are the biggest user group that I get involved with, and you just can't find a better venue. My name is Jay Ayala. I work with Autodesk, based out of Portland, Oregon. I am familiar with a lot of you here already. And with me today, we have Curtis Huggins from the PPI group. And what we've got for you, obviously you can see the total station out here, as well as the tripod holding the prism. But what we've got for you is a little bit of a presentation. But as some of you have noticed, what's with this Autodesk trend of catering all these presentations to the construction industry, right? So you guys are Revit users. How many of you are in the construction business, right? So what we're finding is that the architectural business of creating these Revit models at a very high accuracy for their own construction document purposes, it lends itself really, really well to what Autodesk is doing on the construction side as well. Let's leverage some of those accurate 3D building models and execute on the construction side. So just a quick agenda of what you're going to see. And then Curtis, I'd love it if you could come up and do your introduction here. This is what we're going to see. We're going to see Revit. We're going to see Autodesk point layout and how it works inside of Revit. Some of you, just by show of hands, how many of you seen Autodesk point layout? How many of you seen it work in the field with, okay, excellent. So I thought this was going to be a new presentation for all of you. So we're going to put some points in a Revit model. We're going to show you how we send that information out, publish it to BIM 360 Layout, which is a new app. I'm surprised some of you have already seen this. It was released about a month ago. And what we're using is the TopCon LN100 Total Robotic Station. And what we're going to do is going to show you how to stake out some points, and also how we communicate back and forth between Revit and the field. So Curtis, please do your introduction while I get prepared for this.
All right, is this thing working? Oh yeah, awesome. So I'm Curtis with the PPI group. I know the hardware side pretty good. I do not know the Revit side at all. So this is all new and learning to me as well. This is TopCon LN100, their construction grade robot. Very simple setup. It has a laser pointer over the ground that shows you your current location if you have to set up over a known location. The software also gives us the ability to reset from any known locations or any 2 points anywhere in the model, and we're actually going to demonstrate that in a minute. I've just set the robot over here off to the side someplace where it's out of the way. It has a simple 1-point setup. You hit the power button, step away from it, it'll automatically level perpendicular to the ground. It'll calibrate itself by measuring a foreside and the backside. That's going to tell us how our calibration works on the instrument, and it's going to return control to us. This gun is a very simplified version of the robot. There's no optical gun sights in it. It's got a simple dovetail sight over the top to kind of give you basic pointing, but generally it's all handled by the forward point. It is robotic. It does have the ability to look at a fan, basically, or project a very low power laser in a fan shape, and it looks for that reflective surface off the prism. And then it sends that position to the servos inside the instrument, and it'll constantly track it wherever we move. And so we'll get a chance to demonstrate that. I've just turned the robot on. It's measured its forward. It's measured its backside. It's currently automatically leveled up. And Jay, it's ready for you to work.
Excellent. So TopCon LN100, it's a pretty interesting piece of technology. When I think about it, I come from the design world. When I think about that piece of hardware, I think about it in terms of video cameras, right? You have these large video cameras You can fit over your shoulder. It's got all the bells and whistles, all the buttons on there. But then you have the GoPro. It shoots arguably just as good, high quality video. It's got 3 buttons on it, right? So I kind of equate that, the Topcon LN100, to the GoPro of video cameras. It's very simplified. And we're going to show you how we leverage this together. So by show of hands, this is the Autobahn building that I have up on screen. How many of you seen this before, right? It's a pretty popular building that we use to demonstrate at Autodesk. So if you're not familiar with it, I just want to show you, first of all, what this building looks like and a few interesting challenges that this presents in the construction delivery phase. So if we look at the floor plans, this is what the first floor plan looks like. Now, for the most part, this building is very squared, kind of rectangular, right? Except you can notice it has a slight off-angle portion of the building. And if we look at the reception area, if we zoom in and look at the reception area, you can see very clearly that there's a lot of information in there that the walls, for instance, how do we find these points? And the way we deliver the projects during the construction phase, if the architectural walls were to be created, of course we would have a slab that we start off with, right? But these interior walls, for instance, I'll kind of highlight some of these. How do we find these and how do we deliver these walls out in the field? So when you've got a situation where you've got off-angle grid lines, and it can be a challenge to measure specifically to these points. So how do we do this? So with Autodesk Point Layout, for those of you who are familiar with it, and for those of you who aren't, there's an automated way to get these points. And what you're looking at here, this is the Autodesk Point Layout app. It's actually a plugin. The software is actually a plugin that goes right into Revit. It also goes into AutoCAD and even Navisworks. So this whole panel that you're seeing here, these are all the tools that are usable inside of Autodesk Point Layout. I'm going to show you the big deal about why this is important. So one of the first things I might want to do is I may want to go through and find, for instance, the grid point intersections and have those as established and known points out in the field. So this is how we do that. We establish some control points. We can place them on the grid. And a few things that we would want to do is we would want to give this, for instance, a prefix and start off with a theme. For instance, here 1,000. If I was on the 3rd floor, these would be 3,000. If I was on the 4th floor, they would be 4,000. This is the 1st floor. I'll just kind of keep the naming convention very simple. So let's place these on the grid. And what we'll do is we'll simply choose the grid lines, kind of a mass selection here. It'll filter all the other information out. And just like that, I went through and created all of those points. It's kind of hard to see what happened because the points are actually very, very small. But when I zoom in, oh, did I not do that? Let's do that one more time. Grid points, GRD, 1,000. 1,000, thank you. So let's go ahead and place these on the level, on the 1st floor. I'll probably get some duplicate numbers here, but we'll make sure we take care of that. All right. So when we place these points, I've modified the family so that we can see it very easily. It's automatically placed each one of these individual points, and if I look at this point, I can go see a lot of information about what's happening there. So I can see the point number. Now, I didn't add this in there. It's automatically incrementing every time I put a point in. And I also didn't put in the grid number, the grid axis location. Here you can see it's absorbing all of the information from the Revit model. In this case, we can see that it's grid intersection E8. So without very little interaction, I've already found all of my building control points here, right? So let's do a couple of other things. Let's assume that we were going to lay out this reception desk. It's built out of short walls. I'll kind of show that to you here in 3D in a minute. But this reception desk, the walls are all off angle here, right? So how do we find these points? And we can very quickly go through and add some wall points. I'll give it, for instance, a prefix, and I'll start off with the same numbering scheme here. And very easily I can go through and simply highlight the walls that I want to deal with. And just like this, it gives me all these points. Now you might be thinking, Jay, that's probably too many points. But I would rather have more points than have too few. So what I want to do at this point, I just want to identify a few things for you that we're going to work with out in the field. So very easily, I'll just go ahead and add some points, add some point tags, and I'll select a few that I know that we're going to work with here. And let's go ahead and finish that selection. So as you can see, we're going to be working with these specific points out in the field, and we're going to stake some of these out. And a few other things you may want to know, for instance, in this case, what is the distance between one point to the next? And I can see that we've got a distance of 21 feet, 1 3/8 inch. So in order to send these out to the robotic total station, we can do this with exporting points. We can do this by putting the point file onto a USB and then plugging that USB into the robotic total station. What you're about to see with the LN100, this is totally unique. The BIM 360 layout app uses the iPad as the controller for that specific piece of hardware. Let me show you how this works. In the add-ins ribbon, we can go to glue. I'm going to send this to my glue service. And let's go ahead and place this in our project. I've got a few projects up here, as you can see. I've got the Autobahn, I've got a whole bunch of them, but specifically this belongs to that Autobahn project. And what we can do is we can look at all the different views that we want to add. I've already got mine selected here. I just hit next, didn't I? Let's go back. Let me select the view that I specifically want to work with. I want to work with a 3D view that I've been dealing with here. It's called Architectural with Points. So let me find that in my list here. I think it's towards the bottom if I remember right. Stop me if you see it. So this is in the order that they were created. All right, so let's publish this particular plan, 3D model up to my folder. So here I've got architecture with points file. I'm going to add this to a specific folder within my project. And let's just go make sure that we're using the project internal or shared coordinates. In this case, I'm going to use project internal. So I'll go ahead and post this up to Glue, and while this is being posted, I will connect my iPad to my Glue service, download the model, and kind of simulate for you what it's going to take to get this out into the field. So we'll just wait one moment here while this is updating. I will switch screens. David, I'm switching screens now to the iPad. Excellent, okay. So how many of you are aware of this BIM 360 layout app? Yeah, excellent. So for those of you who don't know about it, if you're familiar with Autodesk BIM 360 Glue, this particular layout app is going to look very, very familiar. So I'm looking on my screen on my desktop, and it's telling me that my model has been successfully glued. So here I can go access my particular project. In this case, it's the Autobahn project, and I'm connected to my home network, whether it's in my office or whether it's at Starbucks. I've got internet access, and I'm seeing all of my information here. So I can open up my projects, and I can go look at my individual models in this case, and I can see that I've got an architecture with points file that was updated moments ago, right? So I'll go ahead and download this file. Oh, oops. All right. So using my office connection, and I'm being very specific about that. I don't know if caught that I've mentioned that I'm on an Office for the third time now. Using my Office connection, I can download the file, and now it's cached onto my iPad. The importance about this is that when I go through and I look at how all of this works, I can see all of the points that I've added, and it looks like I added duplicate set down below there, but these are all the points that I'm dealing with, right? This is the same glue viewer that you might already be used to, with the exception that we've got a brand new set of tools here. So down in the lower hand right corner, you can see the layout button. It looks like a little point there. So this is where all of the subsequent features that you're going to see work. In order for this to work as the controller for the LN100, I'm going to have to disconnect from my home network. I'm going to connect to the ad hoc wireless network that the LN100 is broadcasting. So allow me to do that now. So here you can see my network's available to me, and I've already dialed in the password and everything for that particular piece of technology, and I can see that there's a check mark there that I am now connected to that particular piece of hardware. So at this point, what I might want to do is I might want to start walking through the process of figuring out where that's at. I was just prompted that I am now connected to that LN100. And what we're going to do is we're going to walk through the exercise of finding these specific points. Underneath Curtis's feet, you will see an orange dot. That orange dot represents the known location of grid point E8. Underneath the XY locator, you can see another orange dot. That represents the other point that we're looking at, the other grid point intersection. So we have this laid out here. And typically out in the field, what we're seeing specifically with a large company out in Hillsboro, Oregon, they do a lot of construction for manufacturing out there. What we're seeing is that they're actually using brass caps. We just learned about this last week, Curtis and I. They're using brass caps flush on the floor so we can find these points and go back to them when we need to later. So that might be a consideration for those of you who are doing layout, but from the architecture practice, that might be something you might want to look at as well. Just have a family that represents that specific brass cap location. And you don't need many for a building. But what we're going to do next is we're going to lock in the LN100 onto this prism. I want you to notice what I'm about to do. I'm going to use the joystick, the controller here on the iPad. Keep an eye on the head of that particular robotic total station. So I'm going to use the joystick, and I'm going to aim it. I'm just using the joystick on my iPad here. I'm going to aim it directly my direction here. And I went too far, so I'll just push it back a little bit. And then now what I'll do is I want it to lock into that specific controller there. So what it's doing, it may not be very easy to see, but what it's doing is it's actually fanning up within the unit and scanning across. If it doesn't find it right away, it just scans wider and wider. There was a notification that I am now connected. You can see the green padlock up on the top right-hand corner. These are now dialed in, and what we're going to do is we know these 2 points out in the field. We're going to help APL understand where the tripod is in relation to this building. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the resection command. And what this allows us to do is find 2 known points and allow it to go back and forth. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to input the instrument height in feet and inches. 5.2. Next, what is the target height? Feet and inches.
3.9.
So what Curtis is looking at, there are alignment marks that he's specifically looking at on the TopCon LN100, and he's looking at the center point of the prism. So the next set of instructions are to set up and level the robot location where you can see these 2 points. We've already done that. We've got a good spot there. And typically this would be somewhere that's out of the walking path of the construction guys going back and forth. And now it's asking for us to pick the first point in our list or on the model and level our prism over that point. So Curtis will help me find this specific location. And this one we know to be point 1052. So what I'll do is I'll just kind of navigate around this point and get to that specific location. So I'm using the joystick here to get to that specific location, and I'm using pinch to zoom to get down into that area. So we know we're going to pick this one off that list, 1052. So now that we've locked in to the prism, I can hit next. It's asking for the second point now. So I want you to notice, as Curtis is walking over to that point, what's happening with that robotic total station? Right? So it totally followed him the whole way down there, right? So it's got a lock on the prism, and wherever Curtis is moving, that robotic total station is going to continue to follow his location. So we know that that second point that he's dealing with happens to be over in this other area. I see the point there. We're going to select that point. That's 1040. Are we on? Perfect. Next. Oh, did I do something wrong there? The unit of measure, let's double check that. We ran into this earlier, guys. We had a unit of measure problem going on. Decimal feet, excellent. I'm sorry, I heard two things.
I don't think you confirmed the 1040. It still has to add shot.
Yeah, I thought we did. We can see it in the list here. That's interesting.
This should actually be working, and we got a new release to the software just a couple of days ago. And so we had the first time to try this is not a beta release, this is actual a shipping release. And notice it gave us a little bit of trouble this morning.
Yeah, it's not seeing it for some reason. That's interesting. There we go. Measure. Yeah, let's try it one more time. We can leave it there, Curtis. We'll start right there. All right, so resection. So we've got the height. We've got the height of both the robotic total station and the prism. We've got the location there. Great. So pick our first point, which is 1040. I can see I'm on it there. Next. And our second point, which is 1052. Curtis, let's move to 1052. Okay, we can see we have a variation here of, I must have done something wrong here, guys. We're off by 2/100ths of an inch, right? So we're going to call that good for now. Let's go ahead and save that. And let's give it a name of OCC1. And Curtis, do you mind explaining to us with your microphone there what this acronym stands for?
The OCC?
Yes.
Occupy. The software does give us the ability to either occupy into a known location. We could have set the gun over the top of 1040 and simply reference the other point, 1052, but we're stuck here in the middle of the job site where we plan on working. The other option is to use resection, and that's the method we chose to go with, where we can set the gun up any place where it's got a good view of at least 2 coordinates and outside the workspace where we're going to be working at. So in resecting, we measure the 2 points, resect the gun's current position, and that adds us as part of the current grid.
Thank you, Curtis. So what we're going to do now is we're going to show you how we stake out specific points within this reception desk. So again, I could pick the list. I could pick from the list. As you can see, every time I choose a point, it's going to find that within my list. Or I can go to my model and select it off that specific portion of what I'm viewing here. Allow me to back out, and what I want to do is I want to pick this particular point. So this is the reception desk area. And let's find that right point there. I think I want 104. So if I look at this, what can you see? Can you see a couple of things here. It's actually giving us information about which direction Curtis is going to have to move the prism. So typically what this would be is there would be an iPad mount on this prism. And Curtis is going to walk behind it reading these values. So Curtis, I can see that we need to move towards the prism. In the upper right-hand corner, you're going to see the tracking. We need to move 3 feet towards and 2 feet to the right. And you're noticing what's happening with the model there. It's giving him instantaneous feedback as to which direction he needs to move. Right? So,
It used to be a lot easier with the iPad now with 2 scans, where I wouldn't just kind of see it. So guiding over my shoulder a little bit. But I think you can get a good idea of what it does. Also, you can use a standard typical survey rod with a bipod on it. What we chose to use
Curtis, your microphone.
Is that better? We're using what's called an XY jig, which has gradiated measures along here. You can set it down if I know I need to move, what are we at here, away 0.3, right 3. I can actually just slide the jig over to match. A little more.
Curtis, thank you so much. So as you can see, we can select it from the list or from the model, and we can have it follow us right to that location. It's hard to hear, but it's actually beeping on me as you get closer and closer to that location. I don't know if you guys can hear it or not. So the next thing that we're going to do, that's one way. It'll follow you and it'll show you in 3D where that location is. Another very popular way of finding our next point would be as follows. Let's go ahead and go to the other end of this reception desk. Let's just find this particular point, 107, or is it 105? Let's look at that point. 105. And I want the top continental and 100 to tell me where that's at. I don't know where it's at, right? So I can just I can have it guide me to that specific location. It's hard to tell what just happened, but what just happened is the LN100 just rotated and is showing me where that's at. There's a red light and a green light, and as I get in line with it, you'll notice that it'll start to glow orange. I'll turn it to show you guys where that's at. Let me turn it and show the audience here. So as I move this to the right, let's go ahead and I'm still in guide mode.
Well, basically what the guide light does too, it's red on one side, green on the other. So the gun turns, and so you can just walk until you can see both colors simultaneously, and you know you're on line. You set the prism down, and the whole time you're walking, the gun is searching along the vertical. As soon as it catches your prism, it locks onto you and starts giving you feedback information. Basically, the only correction you have at that time is either towards or away from the instrument.
So let's do this. Let's find this point back here. I think this will be easier to demonstrate. If I have the LN100 guide me to that location, what you're seeing is that the robotic total station is turning to where that point is. So now Curtis has to walk over there and find that specific point. And you'll notice that once he is locked on, that's when the LN100 will, again, reacquire that specific point. And it looks like we're not measuring here.
It did. It actually looked like it turned off just as I walked over.
Excellent. Okay. One of the final methods that we're going to use to find these points is actually just put a laser dot on that point for me. Right? So again, at this point we've shown you how do we walk to that specific location? How do we use the total station to get us to that point by guiding us? Now what you're going to see is the third method, which is just put a laser dot on that specific point for me. So let's zoom out to, we can use that same point. So we've got point 105. So top continental and 100, please show me where that's at. So I will just turn it to that point. You're seeing the robotic total station has now moved to that location, and there should be a red dot right about here somewhere. Can you guys see the laser dot?
It should show up as soon as the gun's finished leveling and has a good solid bead. You just went through it. Did I?
That's interesting.
The rod height is 0.
Yep. Can you see it?
Ah, right
Oh,
here.
there it is, of course.
Excellent.
I think it's a shiny floor problem. Okay, so these are some methods that we can use, and the great thing about this is we're using a very intuitive 3D navigation tool as opposed to floor plans and measuring and pulling tape and drawing some chalk, snapping some chalk lines. All right, so at this point what we want to do is we want to show you another very interesting way that we can leverage this hardware setup along with Autodesk Point Layout. So we're going to transition back over to the desktop, and at this point what we'll do is we are going to make some more points, and then we're going to come back and push it out to the LM100. So allow me to disconnect and reconnect to my laptop.
And while he's doing that, I'm going to reconfigure the jig. This particular jig has got a laser that shines forward, down, and up. I can move the prism to the underside so the laser shoots straight up in the air for defining where hangers and stuff like that goes.
Okay. So in this particular model, we can see that we've got these light fixtures. Now these light fixtures are being modeled inside of the architecture file, but the MEP engineers are really the ones who they spec out the actual light fixture. They actually do the modeling, and so what we're going to do is we're going to open that MEP file and add some points. All right, let's take a look at this in 3D. So the great thing about point layout is just the speed and the use of how we can deliver this information out, right? So these are the actual light fixtures. They look a little bit different. This is what was specified from the MEP engineer. So he's doing his own work, right? All the electrical loads. And what he's got here is a light fixture. And of course, this is a family, a custom family that was created, but we can go through that family and edit it. If we needed to find out where the specific points to hang these, in this example, not only does it apply to lighting fixtures, but it applies to everything that MEP systems are being designed. So we have hangers for all of the ductwork. We have hangers for pipework. We've got the specific hanger locations for this particular light fixture. So let's go and look at that. So I just want to get to a plan view here. And what we want to do is we want to add a point to this specific location. So I just want to make sure I set it up in the right category, and I give it a good point prefix. In this case, it's an electrical hanger. And let's just type hanger in here. And we want to place it on the element. So I'll just go ahead and zoom in to this specific location and place that. So what you're going to notice about this is that it actually places it on the place that you click. So we have to dial this in and push it to the specific location. In this case, I'm just going to use the classic Revit alignment commands to get that dialed in. And I'll do a repeat of that over on this other location. All right, let's add one more manual point. Let's add that to the element. Let's place that on this specific location. And I just want to verify, once I've moved this into place, I just want to verify that I got it dialed in. So here, we're just going to snap it to the center here. That makes sense, right? So let's go look at, for instance, an elevation view and make sure that we're on that specific location. So let's dial up the, let's dial that up. Let's go to fine level of detail. And let's go to wireframe so we can see that specific point. So I can see I'm at the surface of the connector. It's actually got the Z-axis. Not that that's crucial, but I just do want to make sure that I'm on the X and Y. the Z is gonna be drilled into wherever the laser dot happens to be up in the sky. And can you guys see the laser dot currently? It's up on, it's kind of hiding behind one of the lights. So what we want to do is we want to find where these hangars are, and we just want to drill right at that location. So in this scenario, we might have a genie lift, and we might have to go mark that and do rotohammer or something like that. But so what we're going to do is we're going to find all of these locations. So now I'll just load this into my project. And this can be any kind of family, really, any kind of family. Let's go to my project. All right, let's load that into the project. Let's overwrite the parameters. Now they're kind of hard to see because they're 1 inch by 1 inch by 1 inch, but you can have this point be as large or small or shaped in different ways. You can have them be pretty much anything. Now at this point, this is the MEP Revit file, and what we want to do is we actually want to create one conglomerate file. So what we'll do is we will export these points, and I'll just go ahead and kind of walk you through this. And we'll import them into the architectural file. So we can do this in different styles, but northing and easting is a popular one. If you want, you can do X, Y, Z. But the crucial thing about this is that you obey the same coordinate system. And in this case, I set everything up on project internal, right? So when I execute on all of the points here and bring that into my architectural file, let me go ahead and bring that up. This is the file that already has all of my points here. So I can very simply import these points, and I have this saved onto my hard drive, but I can also import points from BIM 360 Glue. Why would I want to do that? Maybe I found something in the field with my TopCon LN100 and I marked and staked that out, and then I've saved that to BIM 360 Glue. So that's now on my iPad, and when I synchronize my iPad to my Glue project, now that's available for me to download back into Revit, right? So that's important, being able to leverage things that are out in the field, bringing them back into Revit. Maybe there's an obstruction, maybe it's a steel member or something like that, and we want to go ahead and document that. So I'll import the file that I just created from my desktop. And I called it EH. So typically what you'll see here is this is a comma delimited file, and for every row it's got a line item here. Now that top row, I don't want it. It's just a name placeholder. But all of these others, you can see all the information about it there, right? So I'll go ahead and bring those in. And crucial, just make sure that you're matching that same coordinate system. In this case, it's internal. And make sure it's set up to the right category there. And it brings in all these points, right? So where did my points go? Oh, I can see, are they down there? They are down there. I did. That's a grid point, that's interesting. Control point. Huh, I must have imported the wrong file. Wait, are these it? Yeah, these are it. I think these are it. Yeah, this is the electrical points. Okay, so at this point, what I would want to do is I would want to go ahead and export this back out to BIM 360 Glue. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's do this. I want to select all of the ones in this project. And let's move these over. I must have done something wrong here. I just need to make sure I got these points. I think I inserted it into the wrong grid location here. All right, so we've got some points, some electrical points in here. Let's go ahead and place these where we need to. And by doing that, we just simply, we glue this one more time. And we can see that it's going to go to the same file and same project and same file that's already on glue. When you are updating files in the glue service, you can pick from the existing list of files, and it's going to give you a warning whether you want to post a new file or whether you want to update an existing file. So this is going to take a few moments, and what we're going to do is we're going to switch back over to the iPad and download the new set of points, and we'll show you that we'll kind of simulate how we can find the electrical hanger points by using the LN100. And we're back, great. So at this point, in order for me to reconnect and download my points, I have to have an internet connection. So allow me one moment while I switch that to my hotspot. I'm actually using my hotspot. And let's go update my iPad, the model on my iPad. And just by doing a down swipe, it'll update, it'll try to find everything and update. Do you have a question?
Yeah, is it only for iPad or is it for Android as well?
So the question, for clarification on the video, the question is the app only for iPad? Or can we have other platforms? Right now, the app is exclusive for the iPad, not the iPhone, the iPad, right? So what we're seeing is we're seeing a lot of requests from our customers on Android, but the majority of the requests we're seeing is on the Slate, on the Windows Slate tablets. So ultimately, you guys and the feedback that you provide to our teams is going to dictate where this gets developed. Okay, so as you can see, we've got the architecture with points file. It's updated a minute ago. We've just downloaded it, and let's go ahead and launch it. So what you're going to notice here is not only do we have all the points that we've created earlier, but now you're seeing points like these hanger points, right? So the idea here is how do we manage finding these specific points in our project? So at this point, what I'm going to do is, now that I've updated my file, I'm going to take my iPad out to the field one more time. Maybe this is the following day, now that we have the electrical hangers, and we're going to connect to the ad hoc network one more time and then walk through the process. So there we are connected to the LN100, and I'm waiting for the check mark. There it is. And let's go ahead and see that we now have the connectivity between the iPad and the LN100. We're going to go ahead and line that up and lock in on the prism. All right, locked to robot. Are you seeing these notifications? So what we can do is we can start to leverage filters. So maybe I just want to filter out everything that's a hanger. So if you think about what's happening out in the field, you may just be interested in one set of points. Oh, I just cleared that out. So we'll go ahead and filter by hanger. Excellent. So now you see all of those hanger points here. And as I start to pick on these points, it'll take me right to where that location is. And I can see that this is pretty far off. It's right 147 feet. So obviously this isn't the point I would want to find. Let's go ahead and kind of emulate for you what that would look like. Let's go ahead and find a point in the model. So if I had my points in the right spot, I obviously imported them into the wrong spot here. But had I had them in the right spot, what we would be doing is we'd be finding these points. and using the hanger to, the XY locator to give us where that's at. All right, so here's a point we're going to find. Let's find 1056, and let's go ahead and find that one. So we need to move towards 28 feet and left 11 feet. Okay, we're really close, Curtis. We're
Left 10?
So as you can see, once we find the point, once we settle on the point, we now have the vertical evidence to where that's going to become, if that was our light fixture. And the microphone probably didn't pick any of that up, did it? All right, so this kind of concludes what we wanted to present today. How do we go through and find these points from the accurate models you're already building, right? You're building these accurate models for your construction purposes. Let's find these points, let's leverage them out in the field, and this is a simple way that we can do that. One push out to glue, and then download that app, and then we're out in the field and delivering these points. So, I'm gonna stop here and open up the floor for any questions. Curtis, was there anything you wanted to add to what we've presented so far?
No, I think it's pretty good.
Okay. All right, guys, any questions? Yes, right up front.
Does the iPad app work without Google?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Does the iPad app work without Google? Can you use it standalone?
Does the iPad app work without glue? So I don't have to install glue in order to use the BIM 360 layout app. Yeah, no. Yes, David. Yeah.
So you can install point layout onto Revit without needing glue. But how do you get that out to the hardware, to the iPad, to use for the top on if you're not on glue?
Thank you. Thank you for the clarification. So what you've just seen does in fact require BIM 360 glue as a named user, right? So you can use it as a named user, or you can have it on enterprise, but you do have to have the glue service. And I'm sorry, I didn't understand that. You do have to have a service of BIM 360 glue in order for this to work. Excellent. Any more questions? I can see a couple hands up here. Here first, then we'll go up top. Go ahead, sir.
Is this a derivative of the old GTP?
So the question is this a derivative of GTP, which stands for Get the Point? Autodesk, in June of last year, acquired Get the Point and is now named Autodesk Point Layout. Yes, it is. Question up here? Does this only work with the TopCon setup? The answer is yes. Right now, the only BIM 360 layout app, the hardware that works with the BIM 360 layout app, is the TopCon LN100, specific to that model.
Could you expand on that with point layout, because it does work with other?
So the BIM 360 layout app, right, I'm going to expand on that. The BIM 360 layout app, what you're seeing with the app being hosted on the iPad, and the iPad, the controller, that works specifically with the ad hoc network of the LN100. However, Autodesk Point Layout can export points in data files that can be used with any hardware, with any robotic total station. So if we have, for instance, maybe a competitor to TopCon would be like Leica or Trimble. If we have a different type of robotic total station, we would have to manually upload a file to that hardware with a USB stick and a data transfer. It's not, you're not going to see this, this intuitive 3D layout. You're going to have a plan view that you're dealing with. But we see a lot of customers using any robotic total station with this. Okay, guys. Yes, another question up in the front.
Will the iPad side work with other robotic total stations in the future? Is it just LN100 now?
So will the iPad app work with other robotic total stations? My expectation is yes. However, right now it works the only hardware manufacturer that opened up to an ad hoc wireless network is Topcon and that specific model number. However, there's a big trend right now in the robotic total station hardware that we're seeing, and this will in fact connect to other hardware. Yes? So what's the range of the wireless ad hoc network? And what we're seeing is variations in congested buildings. However, I've talked to some of the Topcon guys out of the San Francisco Bay Area who run this a lot, and they're talking to me about 80 to 100 feet is typically the limit. Which within a building, that's more than enough space. Yes, another question. I am so sorry, I couldn't hear the question.
Okay. Why does the robot move? Because wouldn't it be easier to basically have that moving around, make the spot, or shine it up to the ceiling, and then you just have to go on the mark yourself? Because what it is, it seems like you're triangulating, you have to find out where it is. It seems quite a slow process.
Yes, so we are in fact triangulating the location of where the points are given, right? I like your idea, having a robot that travels to that spot. Is that what you're saying here? Yeah. Yeah, so I like that idea. So I'm sure that there's some hardware manufacturer out there working on that right now. That sounds like a money idea. You should get working on that.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's a good idea, actually.
You know, they got those little drones now that you can control with your iPad. That should be what you're...
Just navigate to an XY coordinate.
Yeah.
Next user group.
Okay, guys, so I can see that we're kind of running low on questions here. My name is Jay. I'm going to stick around after the session today, but please feel free to come up and grab a card, and we can continue this conversation. Curtis, thank you for helping me prepare and deliver this demonstration. Wendy, thank you so much. Seattle Revit User Group, it's been my pleasure. And we'll see you again soon. David, thank you. Absolutely. Sure, absolutely.
Thank you very much, Jay and PPI for that. Let me switch over. All right, so that's pretty cool. Now, I will say for those of you in the audience, and since we saw that there was quite a number of us that come from the construction world, I mean, this is not necessarily all that new. I mean, you know, our trade partners out there have had, you know, whether it be the Trimble or the Leica total stations or whatever, and I think that what this brings is a real great ease of use and takes that away from a very specialized piece of hardware and software that it takes somebody very, you know, highly trained to use to, for example, a project engineer that can go and run QC on sleeve placements for penetrations before a concrete pour. That's something that comes to mind just because we're doing something very similar right now. And this is a pretty good solution for that. So, you know, from that standpoint, this is kind of bringing down to a different level something that's been out there. But like Jay said, I mean, the idea inside Revit, the ability to generate points and feed those out, you know, there's a number of ways of doing that. And this kind of reiterates the point that we have kind of brought up over the years at SeaRUG. The accuracy of Revit models matters. And the reality, more often than not nowadays, is that we are building from the models. We all know what CDs are. But in a case where you have those walls that are at an angle, you know, a set of dimensioned CDs on paper do us very little good. But a set of XYZ coordinates that we can have a laser put a dot on the ground. And by the way, when you have the total station on laser dot mode, it's very much like having it run around. You don't actually have to take the iPad to the spot. It'll put the point exactly where it needs to go automatically. So that's happening. That is the standard of care. So, you know, when you're working on a project and you're trying to find all the reasons why you don't want to share a model, or you feel nervous about people building from your model because maybe the confidence is not as high in the spots. Well, we're running 3D coordination from a model, prefabricating from a model, in many cases building from a model. So the better the models get, the more accurate this will be, and the more waste we can cut out of the process. So I think we're definitely well underway on that journey, you know, and the CDs and the contracts and all this stuff are going to have to follow us, because it's happening. We're doing it. So I don't know that that's a rude awakening to very many people. It might be to some, hopefully not. We're doing it. So it's my 2 cents on the issue. SeaRUG survey, like I said earlier, please look for that in your inbox, and I would really appreciate it if it doesn't end up in your trash bin. Take the time. We'll make it short and as painless as possible. Your feedback is going to be really, really valuable in putting together the topics for 2015 and making sure that we, you know, continue the momentum that we've had, and that we make 2015 even better than 2014, and we make another great year of SeaRUG. So with that said, everybody have a great holiday season, and we'll see you in February.